ABC News legal contributor James Sample is with us now in studio. And James, many people are asking, is this legal? It sounds like within Washington, D.C., there's nothing to prevent him from doing this. But we're talking already about the potential for this happening in other cities. Is that legal?
You're absolutely correct. The upshot here is that at least for the next 30 days, everything that the president proposed doing in Washington, D.C. is legal. D.C., however, has a number of D.C.-specific characteristics, even separate and apart from the other territories that are also non-states. D.C. has some very specific provisions that apply to it. So while this is ominous, it seems potentially authoritarian when you start rolling the military into any United States domestic jurisdiction. The precedent that this sets in D.C. is D.C.-specific. You cannot take that to other jurisdictions around the country, and that's very much what is at issue in California right now. In essence, the President of the United States is the equivalent of the governor of the District of Columbia. In other states around the country, or in the states that are not the district, the governor is the governor. The president doesn't have that same kind of authority.
Okay, so we're saying that this will last in 30 days at this point. What happens on the 31st day?
On the 31st day, unless Congress has acted, the president no longer has the authority to control the D.C. Metro Police Force. Now, the National Guard in Washington, D.C. is under the control of the president always. The National Guard of the District of Columbia is not like the National Guards of the states. However, the police force under the 1973 law known as the D.C. Home Rule Act sets some limits. The president can do this for 30 days. But beyond 30 days, Congress must act. And for Congress to act and to give the president this control, it would require being able to get past a filibuster. You would need to get by cloture. That is not going to happen. So, as with many things in the Trump administration, we are in uncharted territory. Although this law has been on the books since 1973, no president has ever invoked the home rule authority that the president invoked today.
Just a little while ago, we spoke with a D.C. City Council member who said that he believes that the National Guard will really be doing a lot of office paperwork. Are there things that, despite being deployed, they cannot do?
The D.C. National Guard is different than the National Guard in other states. And there's a law called the Posse Comitatus Act, which is the law that's essentially at issue in the California litigation that Governor Newsom is suing the Trump administration over. The D.C. National Guard can engage in civilian law enforcement. That is not true in the 50 states.
We've been talking about the statistics that we have that suggest that the crime has gone down 26% just over the past year in the District of Columbia. The councilman, again, that we talked to said he couldn't even understand why the president would want to do that. Do you have a sense of what this could ultimately mean?
In order to invoke this authority, the president needs to define an emergency. However, the statute at issue gives the president the authority to define the emergency. So despite the fact that this seems like entirely pretext-based, that this is a pretextual argument that there's an emergency in D.C., when that is contradicted by the evidence and statistics on the ground, the president gets to make that call. I can't read the president's mind, but I suspect that this is one of many efforts to distract from some of the unfavorable news stories that have been dragging the president's numbers down. This makes him look like the strongman that he desires to be.
All right, James Sample, we thank you so much as always for your insight and time. ABC News legal contributor James Sample is with us now.